I'm Alaa Youssef. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Stanford School of Medicine at the Center for Artificial Intelligence in Medicine and Imaging. I have completed my PhD at the University of Toronto, and I have been working at Stanford in the past 3 years on ethical AI evaluation and governance. A fun fact about me is I lived in 15 cities. I grew up, I'm originally from Egypt. My roots are from Egypt, but I grew up in the Middle East in Kuwait. Doing my bachelor in the Faculty of Health have given insight into the burden of chronic disease and allowed me to observe how dysfunctioning in the healthcare systems lead to increasing the cost of healthcare and poor population health outcomes. Finishing my undergrad, this kind of motivated and excited me to go to the University of Toronto, where I pursued my graduate school education at the Institute of Medical Science. And there it was amazing because I could work with clinician scientists, and I obtained dual training in cognitive science and education as well as in clinical research. And it was phenomenal because I was able to observe and do data science research where I look at trends where with large problems data set, you can see on the long term how patient population outcome is changing and where models could be biased and lead to errors. And on the other side, I had the ability to be embedded in the Wilson Center for Education, where I really got that training into how clinician thinks, how they develop expertise, and more of the cognitive science around how expertise and transparent learning occurs. This together kind of led me to be thinking around a lot of concepts in AI was related to cognition as deep learning was coming up. A lot of things was related to me observing bias in the models, and that there's a whole problem with the data quality and how are we going to address the data quality in the AI infrastructure in healthcare. I had this exciting opportunity to come to Stanford and join the Stanford AIMI Center. The AIMI Center has been really home for me to kind of explore various aspects of AI, and I continue to work on data sharing and data quality as well as evaluation of AI for ethics and governance. My portfolio of research includes focusing on data quality evaluation, and this means you have healthcare data that is coming through the pipeline to be used for machine learning. But what we know is machine learning models are biased, or AI models are biased, because if you do not understand the bias in the data set itself, it gets to be reproduced. So my goal is how can we set standards of best practices to ensure that the data is interoperable, aligned with standards, same definitions. So when we train models, we are trying to build models that are fair. Other extent, we focus on what are the gaps and barriers to organizations to implement AI in healthcare, and how ethics and policy influence organizations' perception or ability to adopt AI. One common example is you can look at different hospitals, and you can look at different sectors. So let's say the academic sector, the business sector, the private sector, the nonprofit, and the government each have their own barriers to adopting AI, and each have their own advantages and opportunities to leverage AI. And one of the greatest opportunities in this time is really how do you bridge that collaboration and build that trust. And that needs you to work on governance and trust building. And so much of my focus has been understanding where is the tension between sectors, how can we build alliance and incentive mechanisms that foster that type of research. And then finally, my other component that I'm really passionate about is educational developments in AI, where I really co-direct with Johanna Kim at the AIMI Center, the education portfolio, and this is focused on building educational programs for high school students and clinicians and people to learn about AI and to find it accessible and to think about the challenges in AI in healthcare and continue their career. One of the very interesting projects that I have worked on is machine learning in medical imaging radiology. When we as machine learning scientists think of building models, we acquire the data, we have the data, some of it is labeled by the experts, which is going to be our ground truth or benchmark, and we are going to evaluate this compared to the, to the trained model. Now, one of the main things is we assume and make the assumptions that experts have labeled data in a same and a consistent way. And it was a paradigm shift to discover that model performer is really reflecting the spectrum of variation in the expert's interpretation and perception. And it's not the point of if they have training or if they have higher experience, they will do more accurately. It's the fact that radiology has a subjective component to it, and it's about the clinician's perception. And so they can place the annotation at a slightly different location, and you keep training the algorithm. So how are we expecting the algorithm to perform at a scale of, let's say, from 0 to 10? If we wanted to perform at 9, when the data range you're giving it ranges from anywhere from between 4 and 7. I think that was one of the things that led for us to adopt a new approach in how we build algorithm and go back and develop standards and labeling, and then use that standards and labeling to kind of retrain the model and assess its performance. The biggest challenge in my current research has been resolving the tension between ethical considerations related to AI development and deployment. You have ethical principles. Everyone is motivated to do the good thing for healthcare and society in general. And that's why we think about AI safety and AI good. But one tension is, for you to invest in AI, you need to address not everyone have the capability to invest in AI. And so one of the greatest challenges is some organizations are going to be ahead because they're able to build ethical AI that is safe and deploy that AI, and it aligns with their values and business portfolio, but others do not have the business value to invest in AI. And because they don't have that, they can get to a full quality of AI that actually exacerbate the inequities they're facing in their communities. Who becomes responsible? How do we intervene as a society to address and bridge those structural inequities that has long existed in society? In other words, you can build on top of, we can build a pyramid without a base. And when the base is not there, which is like a robust kind of infrastructure, it becomes harder to build their models on it. The future of AI in the next 5 years is challenging because I think I have from one of my mentors, we initially could predict 5 to 10 years, but after GPT's era, we cannot predict until, end of year. But what I will kind of have a prediction around is, first, multimodal models are going to be, the base for how we release these models and how they integrate in different applications. And second, hoping we will have bigger, investments in AI, compliance and auditing strategies and evaluation. One of the biggest challenges is AI development is going as faster than we have metrics and benchmarks. And so when you don't have something a yardstick to measure how good whatever is being developed to what exists, it becomes very hard to say how valuable the new thing is. And so I think in the next 5 years, we'll have a better ability to develop evaluation frameworks quicker and to be able to evaluate existing models. Some advice from my perspective as I have navigated my journey: be open to opportunities. Know that you can always pivot, have the courage to pivot and develop new competencies and skills. Third is make sure whatever you do aligns with your interests, passion, and values.